One day, a young man, weary from life and feeling that his efforts were not yielding the results he hoped for, sought the wisdom of an old sage who lived in a stone cottage. The sage was known for his ability to help people understand more about life and their purpose. When the young man arrived, the sage invited him to sit down and began to share an important lesson through a large clay jar. In front of them was the jar, simple in appearance, yet containing a profound message. The sage began with large stones. He carefully placed each stone into the jar. Once the jar was filled with the large stones, he asked the young man, "Is the jar full?" The young man looked into the jar and nodded, thinking it was full. But the sage smiled gently and continued the lesson. Next, the sage poured gravel into the jar, and the small stones filled the gaps between the larger stones. Afterward, he asked again, "Is the jar full now?" The young man looked at the jar, unsure, but nodded once more, still thinking it was full. The sage did not stop. He took a bucket of sand and poured it into the jar. The sand filled every remaining small space, and the jar was now packed even more tightly. "Is the jar full now?" asked the sage once again. The young man looked at the jar, still not fully understanding, but nodded again, thinking it was truly full. Finally, the sage took a pitcher of water and poured it into the jar. The water seeped through the sand, filling every last bit of space. The jar was completely full now, with no room left. The sage smiled knowingly and said, "If you had put the sand in first or the gravel, there would have been no room for the large stones, those things that matter most." The young man sat in silence, his eyes wide with realization. He finally understood the lesson the sage was teaching. If you do not prioritize the most important things, your life will be filled with trivial matters. The sand, gravel, and water represent the small, fleeting concerns of life, while the large stones symbolize the core values: family, love, career, and the big goals we should pursue. The young man left with a newfound sense of clarity, knowing he would live his life more purposefully. He would no longer let the small worries take over, but focus on what truly matters. Just like the jar in the story, each of us must manage our finances wisely. The large stones represent long-term financial goals, such as investments, retirement savings, or building a solid emergency fund. The sand and pebbles are daily expenses, the small needs we constantly face. And finally, the water symbolizes unforeseen costs, the unexpected events life may bring. If you let sand and pebbles take up too much space, you won't have room left for the large stones, your most important financial priorities. Focus on the big goals first, and don't let trivial expenses distract you. Only when you prioritize what truly matters can your finances grow strong and sustainable.